Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and tonight I'm joined by Tommy Sheridan, where we'll be talking to PG CIARLETTA. Phil CIARLETTA. Did I say that right?
Bang on.
Brilliant.
Correct, man.
This is your second appearance, so we must like you. You've been asked back on A Celtic State of Mind, and we're here to talk about music, football, and anything else that comes to mind. But before we do all that, Tommy, there's a big cup to your left. There's a small award in front of you. Fill us in. You've got a medal round your neck.
Listen, I feel really, really upset now because you've won a fantastic award. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I seen the video of your acceptance speech. Absolutely brilliant. So humbling. Excellent, mate. You're a tribute. You're a tribute, and the work that you've done over the years, thoroughly deserved, honestly. Brilliant. It's not the first award you've won, and it won't be the last award you win either. However, I forgot that you would be bringing the wee award in. And I'm just back from Tory Glen in Glasgow, where the over-60s Premier League West of Scotland League section was finishing. And Pollock United, the team I play with, played with them when I was under 10s, and now I'm 16, I'm playing with them again. And we had to win 4 games, Paul John. And we won the 4 games.
Well done, Tommy.
And we won the league. And that's
There it is.
That's the cup. We won the West Premier League Cup the day. But I do feel rotten because my big cup is kind of dwarfing your wee award.
It is. Let's be honest. It is. Right?
But size isn't everything.
Sorry, tell me.
apparently.
Sorry, tell me, Tommy. Didn't your old fella run that team way back in the day?
Phil, I'm sorry, mate. Young man, he's probably sitting there saying, Jesus, old guy's still playing football. What's all this about? Paul and I have shared a wee bit of the game together. We were at the Aberdeen semi-final together, weren't we?
Aye, cup semi. What a game that was.
Wait, he knows that I've got a lot of old sayings to pull out, Phil. But my old man, Paul John, started taking Pollock United when I was 10 years of age, and I played for the under-10s. And Pollock United in my day, like Glasgow United, like Postle YM, so many other clubs, East of Scotland, they were the heartbeat of the communities.
Yeah.
I mean, so many of my mates and the guys I grew up with, if we didn't have Pollock United, the truth is the glue, the drugs, the alcohol, the knives, everything was alternative.
Yeah.
But we weren't getting involved because we were going to training once or twice a week. We were going to the discos at the weekend, and we were playing football Saturdays, sometimes Saturdays and Sundays. Pollock United was an institution, and I'm so proud to be back playing with Pollock United. Again, it's an institution. I was speaking to the guy that runs it, boy Andy Elliott, through down in Nella Craigs now, where Pollock United's based, and he says that they have, on average, 10,000 people a month using Nella Craigs, the facility. 10,000 a month. Now, that is phenomenal.
Yeah, it is.
And to me, I stood the day at Tory Glen, and there was an over 60s Premier League, and there was an over 60s Championship. And I looked around, and there must have been easy 300, 400 guys of my age. And I said to one guy, I said, you know what? What would we all be doing right now if we weren't here? And it is a phenomenal sport that's taken off, Paul John, because there's lots of guys who are 60 like me who still think we can play football. We can't really, but we want to keep trying. And it's really, really taken off. The walking football's taken off. I would encourage any of our viewers. I know I look at some of the demographics of the viewing figures that we've got, and I know that we do have a lot who are mature, shall we say. Don't want to go any further than that. But a lot of over 50s walking football teams are all over Scotland now. And I would encourage you, get involved. And I thought at first, I'm not playing walking football, that's not for me. How can you play walking football, right? But once I got involved, I'm now an addict of it. I love it. So anyway, that's why the cup's here. So Phil, I hope you don't mind sitting beside the big.
Oh, it's fine, mate. But I know there's
He's used to it. He's used to it to support Celtic.
Exactly.
I mean, a couple of things there. Jim Orr, massive advocate of the walking football as well.
He was there today.
Was he there? Brilliant. Phil, I need to ask you about your own football career. Were you a player? Did you play?
I did play, so I still play 5s and 7s now and again, but I played up to about, I think about 15s and 17s. But no, I was always better at the music and performing. I suppose that sometimes I could do a couple of things that were pretty good, but a lot of the times I was just more interested in I think at one point it was the partying and the social side that kind of got in the way. And I think I love watching football. I love obviously all the storylines and all the dramas. And football is a massive part of my life, but it's just for me, all my passion, my drive, and my fight's always been more towards music. But yeah, no, I still love it. And then occasionally when I feel like going down and running rings round, people will head across to some five-a-side pitch in Glasgow and do that. But I don't quite qualify for walking football yet.
Well, I'm not far off it.
Can I ask Phil one question? Because Phil, I mentioned the cup semi-final. We spent time together. You're a very reserved young man. You seem almost shy. And then I listen to you performing, and you're absolutely brilliant. You command that space. You're so confident. Is it a Jekyll and Hyde type of existence for you as an artist that's where you express yourself?
Aye, a wee bit, to be honest. Like, I think when I come off a stage, I'm more Phil CIARLETTA, whereas when I go on a stage, it's PG CIARLETTA. So yeah, no, it's always been like, and this is why I love it, it's always been a happy place and a safe space for me. And so when I enter that stage, I don't know, I've just always kind of felt relaxed and comfortable, you know what I mean?
I think I've listened to several of your numbers, mate, and some of them, by the way, they're full of wisdom and philosophy that you really shouldn't have at your age, but so much of it's there. And I love the fact that you like almost to narrate life. I love songs like that, Paul.
It's like
John,
universal truths, isn't it?
because we can all relate to these stories, you know. And
That's
so I take my hat off to you, mate. I think you're a fantastic artist, and unfortunately, I'm very jealous. Good looking boy, good looking boy.
Can't hide that.
That will do you well when it comes to the promotions as well. So well done, for.
that's why I think like it was good with the point about music. Like, there's so much music these days, it's just nonsense and chat GPT stuff, you know what I mean? That's the way the world's gone. But music to me has to tell a story and give across a message, and it's also got the power to do that. Like, look at a lot of the big bands and that have came before, like a lot of them, if they wanted to, they've been able to influence a change of some sort. So I've always wanted my music narrative connect with people, and then sort of like my musical philosophy for me is like, when you go into a gig, you want to see that full audience singing and jumping about, and that's more or less, to me, that's a gig, and that's music. You leave your problems at the door.
Totally.
And you just come in and...
Escapism.
100%.
Yep. And that's where I think there's that crossover between football and music. Being on the terrace or being in an audience like in this place or around the corner there at the Barrowlands.
Aye.
There's a community feel about it.
Yeah. You know? There's a quote from Ange that stuck with me, and it was, I think when we beat Rangers 4-0, it was his first win in a Celtic Rangers match, and he said something like that. He said, for 90 minutes or 2 hours, he said, everybody came to the stadium with problems in their life. And that team, for that period of time, made everybody forget about the problems in their life, be part of something and actually feel something. And that's the crossover. That's where music and football and sport's the same.
This is the thing, right? I think back to like my old man's generation, Tommy. He's a bit older than yourself, by the way. I just want to put that in. And these are guys that had really tough, labour-intensive jobs all week. It was a tough life for them. They normally had 4 greeting bairns back home to feed. And at the weekend, that was their escapism. And obviously, part of that was the journey to the game, Tommy, the bevy in the pubs before and after, etc. But where would you see serious grown men like that embracing each other, singing, jumping about like wee kids? Football brings that out in people, that raw emotion. So does music though, Phil, 100%. Now, when you were talking there, and I was thinking back to a conversation I had last week about people who are able to flip from football to another career. James Allen, Las Vegas. Now, we were at Las Vegas. When was that? 3-4 years ago in Edinburgh.
Doctor's Bell's bar.
Yep. And I look at him and think to myself, how can you be so good at 2 different things? Now, I know you've got like Vinnie Jones, footballer to actor. Not sure how good he is at either of them. James Allen, a decent player for a number of clubs, and then he sets up Las Vegas and with his cousin, still going strong. But the reason I bring it up, what I loved about Las Vegas was the fact that he wasn't trying to be Elvis Presley. He sang in his own accent, right? Now, before that, who did we have? The Proclaimers. Because it wasn't in vogue to do that. Jerry Cinnamon does it. You do it. And I think that Las Vegas almost kicked the door down when it came to that. Did you do that just unknowingly, or was it a decision that you made when you're singing to be as bold? Because I can hear the accent coming through.
Aye, I think a lot of the people I looked up to in music, so obviously like say Jerry Cinnamon, and then very, very early part for me, like getting into music and wanting to do it properly. When you look at, I think it was like The View and Las Vegas,
Great example.
Paul and Nutini. So I think it's just identity in it. It's you being yourself, and for me, if you're putting on an American accent, singing, you're kind of selling your soul a wee bit. So I would admit, the more I've went on, I've probably became a wee bit more polished, and my accent's probably diluted a bit, but I've still got that there. But no, I just think a lot of the stuff I've listened to as well is a lot of like London acts, and they all sing in a London and a Cockney accent.
Yeah.
And you've got like say Jamie Webster singing in his native accent. So yeah, no, like it's something that makes you different. The thing is with music, if you want to build something, you've got to have something that differentiates you. And one way of doing that is where you're from, your accent. And I think it's just genuine. The worst part and what I hate in this world is there's so much that's not real and not genuine and a wee bit fake. Whereas I just want to build something and be myself in terms of this is me, this is who I am, this is my identity, and this is real. So Scottish and the accent and Celtic and all this sort of stuff, that's part of who I am. So I would never want to change that.
It's authentic, isn't it?
100%.
How big an influence was Jerry? Because I know, Tommy, you've worked with Jerry, haven't you?
I'm very, very impressed, Phil, by your desire to retain your uniqueness and have your stamp on your music, because it is your music, it's your production, and therefore guard it jealously. What I worry about sometimes, Paul John, is that once managers get involved and management teams get involved, they might not like that type of stuff, and they want you mentioned the word there, polish, and they might want to polish too much. Jerry Cinnamon is a fantastic bloke, just an ordinary Castlemaine boy with an absolute incredible level of talent. And I come across Jerry during the first referendum, 2013, 2014. Jerry came to a public meeting, a Hope Over Fear public meeting in the centre of Glasgow. He attended a meeting that I was speaking at, and I was putting the case for Scottish independence, and the whole idea of the triumph of hope over fear.
Yeah.
Hope was the yes side, fear was the no side, and it was the whole idea of let's. Nelson Mandela used to always say, may your decisions in life be informed by hope, not defined by fear. And it always stuck in my mind, that's what I want Scotland to be, about hope, not about fear. Jerry went home that night in his council flat in Castlemilk and wrote a song based on that meeting.
Aye.
And it became Hope Over Fear. And it became an anthem for the whole independence movement. He came and played for us live at George Square. By the way, at this time, Jerry was, he'd picked up a lot of fans for playing a lot of clubs and pubs in Glasgow, but he wasn't known. And he played in front of about 10,000 first time. Second time, it was probably about 15, 20,000. And stratosphere. So that was 2014, 2015. And he was a delight to play with. Jerry, the problem was everybody wanted to hear Jerry, so he always had to go in last.
Right.
Because if he went on before, then it wasn't fair for the other artists, by the way, who were all playing for nothing. And none of the artists get any money, none of them, not even expenses. They just came because they supported independence. That's why I loved the Hope Over Fear gigs, because it was people who were there for the right reasons, Paul John. They weren't there for the wrong reasons. They weren't there about themselves. It was about the cause. And Jerry got picked up no long after 2015 by a management team who took over his whole operation. And the problem was they wouldn't let him play any more gigs for us. They, I believe, advised him that if he wanted to be universally acclaimed, he would have to steer away from support for independence because, 50% support independence, 50% don't. And therefore, if you want to appeal to everybody, you're cutting off your 50% already. I was disappointed because he was a big loss to the cause, because he was a fantastic advocate of the cause. But I understand, young guy for Casimir with all that talent, and he's getting a chance to promote his music, and some of his other stuff. It's just outstanding. So it was a delight to even be a part of that early process with Jerry, and I wish him nothing but success because he deserves it. But there's an example, Phil, where the management team says, well, wait a minute, we can't have you. And I was thinking of some of the words in one of your songs about having a sesh, and talking about the drugs and all that. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm wondering if a management team will say to you, oh, listen, you're very good, you've got a lovely voice.
I wouldn't say that, Lyndon.
But, you need to get rid of this type of stuff. But the problem is, that's what attracted me to the song.
Authenticity.
It was authenticity, Paul John, because I'm listening and I'm saying to myself, that was a life for so many people. I mean, I remember, sorry to diversify a wee bit, but I'm old enough to remember Up the Junction.
Yeah.
By Squeeze. And Up the Junction, I don't know if you've heard it, Phil, but if you haven't, please go and listen to it, because I think it would be a song that you would think about, by the way, and it was a story of a young guy, goes with a lassie, gets her pregnant, they end up having to get married far too young in age, she ends up leaving, he's end up with a way. See, my upbringing and Pollock, and you'll be the same, Paul John and Faith, it was the story of people's lives.
Yeah.
It was a rites of passage song, and it was Squeeze that sang it, and I just love narrative-based songs like that. So please keep them.
Storytelling.
Storytelling, 100%.
Yes.
And I think the Celts are great at it.
Yeah,
Storytelling.
100%. Like if you go across the sea island and stuff like that, some of their stuff, like actual storytelling, folk storytelling, and then like when I look at other things of music, it's every song's a love song. Now there is some great love songs, but there's so much more in life you can sing about. And then if you sing about inner city folk tales that are real life problems, what people go through, what your community experiences, then that's what connects to me, and that's what can become powerful. So that's really where, for my stuff, and that's what I listen to as well. You know what I mean? That's what I see as music.
You know what I loved the other week? We spoke to Ken McCluskey from the Bluebells, and he was defining what rebel music meant to him. And he said folk music, punk, and rock and roll is all rebel music. And I thought that was brilliant. I'd never thought about it like that, Tommy.
Listen, it was an education for me, to be honest, Paul John, because I've hands in the air. I have to say I was very naive when I was growing up, because I used to think, punk music, it's a waste of time, they're wasters and all the rest of it. And it's not until I got older. And by the way, I'm a political rebel. I'm anti-establishment and everything. I want to change in the world. I want to make things better. But I didn't see the connection that they were anti-establishment as well.
Yeah.
I just didn't see it at the time. I just thought they were, after heat type of thing and were wasters. But they were actually making a statement.
Making a statement. And we'll talk about some of the artists who still do that. And I think it's important to call them out in a good way, because we've mentioned Primal Scream, for example, always standing up for Palestine and have done for a long time. Roger Waters, Paul Weller, these guys have stayed true to their beliefs. Before we move on, though, we were talking about Jerry Cinnamon. Do you like the way he's done it in terms of he's built his own tribe? He does it on his own terms. He hasn't sold out, hasn't he? I know that, by the way, he was maybe polished a wee bit by the management team, like Tommy said there, but he's not sold out. He's done it on his own terms, isn't he?
For me, for anybody to be a success in any walk of life, you get to a point where you've got to build your own thing. You can be part of something, but that doesn't guarantee you're going to be building your own sort of scene or community or your tribe, as you said. So yeah, what I like about what he done is just the actual playing of music, in terms of just going out there and just going to every inch of Scotland, Ireland, England, wherever, and just play, and actually take the music to the people. Because that style of music starts in the working people's clubs and the social clubs and actually the boozers, and sometimes for some people it's busking. So it starts there and it builds and it builds and it builds, and then for his story, obviously, it ends up at Hampden Park. Yeah, the thing I love and respect the most is that just the graft of just travelling about, and I've seen it for tour posters in the past, going out to Dunoon and Greenock and all these places, up to the Irish Sky and everywhere. So that sort of hard graft and actually doing the sort of traditional route of music as being an artist and playing to people and actually engaging people and building something from grassroots up is what I respect, and that's what, to me, you have to do, and that's what I want to do as well. But that is, for me, being Scottish and being here, is I've always seen it that you've always got to work, and obviously as a country we have got a lot of great privileges and stuff behind us, but when you're coming from a country that's smaller than a lot of other countries out there that have got bigger money and resources, you always have to work that extra wee bit harder than everybody else. So that means you just got to get up your backside and go and play. So from that story, that's probably what I love the most, is that's just building your own thing and doing it on your own terms.
Grafting. And
And
put
grafting,
Sinbad's and Dunoon on the map as well, didn't it?
Aye.
I went to Dunoon for the first time. I had to go and find out where Sinbad's was. Do you know what I mean? You're talking about your Scots background. I'm going to name you a couple of Italian Celts, all right? And I'm going to start off with Paolo Di Canio, the Maverick. We move on to Enrico Annoni, who was a cult hero, Phil. And then Massimo Donati, who was, I would say, someone who didn't fulfil their potential, something of an underachiever in a Celtic jersey. Which of those three players are you most like?
Probably a mix of Di Canio and Donati.
But not the politics.
Not the politics, no. Thing is about Di Canio is...
I thought I'd say that before you did, Tommy.
See, Di Canio, there's a lot of... we're talking about football comparisons only here, but... no, like, see all the stories about him online and his management and stuff. I do think they're quite funny, so...
It's when he's shaving his entire body in front of his teammates in the dressing room and all that.
Aye.
Just getting right down to the scud and just shaving his entire body, as if that's the done thing. And Peter Grant walking into the dressing room thinking, what are you doing, Paolo? You know, he was a maverick though, wasn't he?
Yeah, he had that. And I mean, Donati, but then Donati as well had some moments of brilliance. I think it was at Shakhtar Donetsk, was it?
Yeah.
When he got the winner. So he had a couple of moments where he produced something which was exceptional. But you're right, it was just, it never quite clicked for him.
He had the talent. We spoke to Peter Grant. It wasn't actually on the show. It was on one of our live events. And Peter, of course, was part of Tony Mowbray's management team, who had Donati, who had been bought by Strachan, and they took over and inherited him. And he was sold from under their noses without their permission.
Wow.
So Grant, he told us that, that was a decision that the club took. Apparently, they were willing to let him leave on a free in the pre-season, but Mowbray convinced them, no, I want to have a look at the player, because it hadn't worked out under Strachan. He starts getting a game, and you'll remember he scored against Arsenal in Europe that season, wearing the Bumblebee kit, and he got sold from under their noses. Not the first time I've heard a story like that. Joe Ledley told us the exact same story, Tommy. He goes in on a Monday, he's just scored at the weekend, he's a regular in Neil Lennon's team, but Peter Lawwell sells him. And it's not a managerial decision. It's above that.
It's a
so, when
decision.
People are talking about football directors and people interfering in the football operation, it definitely used to happen. Whether or not it still does, I don't know. But when you hear stories coming straight from Joe Ledley saying, I got sold and Lenny didn't really know much about it and he didn't want to leave the club, and you hear it from Peter Grant, it concerns you a wee bit. Do you get the sense, though, that when you've got a manager like Brendan Rodgers, that kind of thing wouldn't happen?
Yes, and it was the same with Ange as well. Some managers seem to have a bit more pull and a bit more responsibility about them. But you're right, though. I think that those scenarios there, I think it happens at quite a lot of football clubs. I think the story right now down south is Mo Salah at Liverpool, and their managers seem to be like, didn't know if he was staying or going. So it seems to be levels above that are making those decisions sometimes when you're the head coach opposed to the manager. But I think Brendan Rodgers he's one of the reasons he's came back is to have an assault at Europe. You know what I mean? It has to be, and he has to have control over the players coming in, or a big say in the players coming in and who stays to do that. Otherwise, how are you going to build a team? So
what I like about him, though, right, and he's done this the first time as well. See, if it's not his player, he won't play them. So Marvin Compere, clearly not his player, just didn't play him. Marion Zved just came in prior to Rodgers leaving the first time. He wouldn't play the players, and I think we've seen that this time round with the likes of Nawrocki. He just won't play these guys.
Should be left back. Don't think he fancies him either.
No, doesn't he?
What would you call him? the wee guy that's out in loan now.
Burnaby.
Burnaby. Come on.
I would take the money and run.
Yeah.
With Burnaby, I would take the money and run. I think left back's a situation at the moment that we're not focusing on, but we should, right? Because things are going well domestically and in Europe. And at left back, what we've got, our first choice is out of contract at the end of the season. He can start talking to clubs on the 1st of January. The backup is a loanee from Barcelona who may or may not stay until the end of the season. And then the other guy we've got at left back is tearing up trees in Brazil at the moment.
Yep.
So right now, that's a position, that's a problematic position.
I was speaking to some boys today at the football and some Celtic supporters, and that's the point we were making. What would you do now, right? Because everything's going well. Everything's going well. I mean, I think we're an exciting team again. John, I know we go through wee periods, maybe 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, but we're an exciting team. We seem to be able to score a will. The boy Kuhn has just, I think, transformed the narrative of our team. I think he's became the go-to player. Fantastic. And yet when he came at first, I was one of those that was critical. I wasn't the only one. But we didn't know the background. We didn't know about the dental work. We didn't know about the injury. We didn't know about the loss of weight, all those things. But now he's given us his potential, and he's a Bernard a Brendan signing. But you know, I was watching a game recently. Just shows you how things move on. 10 years ago, it was one of the ones on Sky, and it was the Chelsea-Liverpool game. It was the Stevie Slip game. And I'm watching it.
Slippy G.
And I'm looking at Brendan's the manager.
I was.
Gerrard's playing. Salah's playing with Chelsea. I'm like, God almighty, you look 10 years on, Brendan is still very much involved. Salah is absolutely an incredible player for Liverpool now. And I think from my point of view, that longevity that Brendan was involved 10 years ago with a team that could have won the Premiership, but for that result actually, and he's now with us, and he's still at that top level. I think we're very, very lucky to have him. I hope that January we buy at least two. I personally, and I could be totally contradicted, I agree with you. To me, left back, I don't want to be taken the wrong way, but I love the big Calvin Bassey guy. I think he was a big unit, an athlete up and down the park. Personally, I'd like to see a left back of that character coming in. But where I also think we need to strengthen is on the wings, because I look at our two first choice, Maeda and Kuhn, and on their day, they're unplayable. But on the bench, Palmer's not shown enough yet, in my opinion. And Yang, and I could contradict myself here, he come on against Leipzig, Phil. I thought, is that the same player? Because I'd never seen him playing so well as he did when he came on against Leipzig. So maybe there is something there that we've not seen yet, but we need to see it more often. But we need somebody else on that bench that you can pull on, that you can trust to go and change the game. So they're the two areas I think we need to strengthen.
I agree with that, because Palmer's completely out of the picture now. He's not even making the bench.
Too busy dancing.
Too busy with the socials and all that. And by the way, a gifted player, I've got no doubt. But then Yang, I think, is probably showing the right attitude, even though he's not the finished article. And Rodgers will, for me, he will favour that type of player, Tommy, because it's about application with him. The only backup that I really trust at the moment is James A. Forrest.
Yes.
So I would, and if you can get a winger that can play both sides, then that's manna from heaven. You know, you just bring somebody like that into the squad, brilliant. And I still think we're a wee bit short up top. And I know people say Maeda can play through the centre, etc. But you're one injury away from just having one striker, one recognised striker. And by the way, I rate Kyogo and I rate Ida, two completely different players, but I do think you need to run with three. And I think Rodgers thinks that as well, because he wanted to keep Vata as the backup, didn't he?
Yes, there's no doubt. He came out publicly and said that was what he was hoping to do. That there is a young guy, I'm a fool rotten that I can't even mention.
Daniel Cummings.
That's him.
Yep.
He's scoring for fun now.
Yeah. And by the way, we are recording this on Wednesday. He is playing right now in the youth version of the Champions League against Bruges, up at the City Stadium, Lesser Hamden. So his goal scoring record going into that game is 21 goals in 17 games.
Brilliant.
Right. So if anybody's going to get a seat in the bench against Ross County, it's maybe going to be him. Let's talk a wee bit about your music. The last time you joined us, I asked you before, you didn't answer it right, which is bizarre. I said, what was the 3 songs you played us? Now, one of them was I Want to Be Adored. I'm a massive Roses fan. I'm sure you are as well. But how big a part did Odsonne Edouard play in your song choice?
Oh, massive. Just because obviously I'd see it on the TV and then a lot of my mates were singing it as well. And every time he scored, it was just the stadium doing that melody. So, yeah, no, it reinvigorated a lot of that song. Like for me, obviously there'll be a debate on what is the best sort of fan chant or goal celebration song that gets sung for a player. But that was, for me, obviously with my musical taste, that was one of the best ones.
Would you have him back?
No. I'd rather
Think
see...
he's done? Think he's a busted flush?
He'd still do a job, obviously, and he's an amazing talent, but I'd like to see someone else come in. Like, I know Rodgers, like, from phase 1 of Rodgers, if we go a couple of years back, he had, Griffiths, Dembele, Edouard at one point. So, I think he's had his time. Sometimes it's no good bringing somebody back for a second spell. Obviously, Rodgers looks like he's proven that wrong, but I'm sure there'll be other talents out there that we can go and give a chance and do the same. I do like parts of the model where we find someone and we get the scouting right and we bring somebody in and they develop into a great player. We sell into, say, one of the top 5 leagues in Europe. The club makes money from it, and that's the reason why we're in the financial situation that we're in and other teams aren't. So I think having the ability to do that is something that we should use. So there'll be definitely players like Odsonne Edouard kicking about the French league somewhere that we can go and take.
Aye, go for the next 19-year-old coming through at PSG, rather than someone who... Another thing I think we're very good at is getting a player whose career hasn't really gone as planned. So I reckon you can actually throw in Carter Vickers into the mix here. So he's at Spurs and he can't get a game, and he's a nomadic kind of figure who's going to all these different clubs on loan. But Celtic, it's like an incubator. They bring him in and they take him under the wing and he progresses. Jota was the next big thing at Benfica, couldn't break through, comes to Celtic, makes it happen in the Champions League. Matt O'Reilly had to take the step back to MK Dons, then we pick him up. And I think the latest addition is Kuhn.
But Paul John, you could say the same about Larsson.
Larsson,
I mean, probably one of the best examples, because I often hear people talk about how good Larsson was for Celtic, but I've also heard others say, yeah, but let's not forget how good Celtic was for Larsson.
Yes.
Because it wasn't particularly, the fact that we could pick him up and nobody really had heard of him, etc., goes on to be an absolutely outstanding player, so good that Man United and Barcelona signed him,
100%.
So, but what I would say about the whole idea of what happens next, I mean, this is Wednesday. We're playing the night, right? Please, I hope we don't jinx it, Phil, by even talking about it, right? But if we could beat Club Brugge, and it's a big if, they're flying. There's no doubt they're flying. Right for the outset, people have told me early doors that Club Brugge were a really good side, right? Really good side. But I've got to say to you, they said the same about Leipzig.
Yes.
That Leipzig performance for me, Phil, it's the best I've seen, I think, in my... I'm not going to say lifetime, but it was certainly up there in terms of a top European opposition, second in the German league, absolutely tearing it up. And we didn't just beat them, we whacked them.
We dominated them.
I think actually that, like, obviously in my lifetime, every time we won a European match, like a big European match, it was a proper part of the bus. Keeper had an absolute unbelievable game.
Barcelona's the big example.
Man United, Barcelona, but that's the first one I've seen us actually just play a system, play a way of football and actually take it to a team like that. Same for Bruges as well. I think the difficulty what we'll start to have is teams will start to go, right, okay, they're playing at a certain level, we need to show them a bit more respect, so the games might start to get a wee bit harder. But I think if you get a Celtic team with that potential, top form, you get that crowd early. It doesn't matter what team it is, that on its day can beat any team in European football at home. Away from home, we've obviously still got a bit of problem.
The power of Celtic Park, that's what Brendan called it, isn't it?
Aye.
Definitely, Paul John. And you think about it, Phil, the way you've defined it there was great, mate, the way you explained it, because you're right, we've had better European results. There's no doubt about beating Juventus and beating Barcelona, beating Man United. We've had better results. But it's the performance, Paul John. We went one down. we come from behind and we dominated them, didn't we? I mean, we're at a situation, I think, where dream, if we beat Bruges the night, right, we're not talking about top 24. We're talking about top 8. We're talking about automatic qualification. And the reason all of that is important to what you were just saying earlier, you're talking about attracting the next big thing.
Yeah.
Surely agents and parents, because a lot of parents are agents now, young guys, surely they then start saying, hey, by the way, that team in Scotland, look at that. You can really have a platform. So
Definitely.
it's all to play for.
I look at we're at the halfway stage, 7 points, right? And I think that the first half of our fixtures were more difficult on paper than the second half. So if you could get anywhere near the same points total in the second half of the campaign and you get into maybe a dozen points, then you are looking at the higher reaches of certainly the middle section of that league. And it's exciting as well. I'm going to go back to the music for a second, Phil. The last time you joined us, you did play I Wanna Be Adored. You also played 2 other songs. Bonnie Toon, because for anyone who doesn't know, you're from Kirkcaldy.
Aye.
And it's the Lang Toon. As you're driving in, that's the sign that you read. And the Sesh, as Tommy's already mentioned. Bring us right up to date. You've got a T-shirt here, Start a Revolution. That's been a banger for you. That's been a massive song for you, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's just like it's mad thinking about, like, as you progress, you get more knowledge and more skills, and you always look back and say, would I have done stuff differently? Probably no, because it's what you knew at that point in time. So at that time, the likes of the Sesh and Bonnie Toon, they were like songs I wrote myself, but it's a bit like football, it becomes a team game. So as you go on, what I've kind of released recently, Start a Revolution, massive tune. Again, very, very relatable tune. It's about, say, missed opportunities, things not happening for you, and kind of waiting for that moment to come back around, be ready for it and capitalise. With that as well, I also had a song called Until You Get Home. Getting more like an inner city folktale. More of a, I've been slagging off love songs, but it's kind of got that wee sort of incline about it. But it's got a rhythm and an energy, and the same with that song as well. It's uplifting. So like when you see those 2 songs live, you see how people react, and it gives them a big energy boost. So there's 2 songs that I think are great, and I'm proud of. I've also had a more slower anthemic one, Now That You're Here, which is kind of more, say, Oasis inspired, which was wasn't coincidental with them getting back together. But I see that one more of a kind of slower, like a football anthem at the end when folks sing it with their hands out after you've had a big result. And then there was From Glasgow to Berlin, which was one of the songs at the Euros at the summer, which more or less took me across to Germany to play out there.
Got you to the finals, mate.
I got me to the finals, but that one was literally just posting a clip on TikTok, blowing up, and then carrying from there, from TikTok all the way to Hampden Park, and then across to Germany in the fan zones, tens of thousands of people, European TV, all that sort of stuff. So I'm building a portfolio, I would say, that's real to me, that's genuine music that I'm proud of, and I've got more to come kind of next year and the year after that, etc., of the same vein, that sort of inner city folktale storytelling. But when it becomes, and that's the beauty of my style of music, is I can strip it right back and play it just kind of acoustically, and it is folk storytelling, but when you add more people and you make it a band sound, you kind of plug in that indie rock sound as well that uplifts everybody and makes it energetic and anthemic. So that's the sort of songs and portfolio and story I'm building. And that's really where I am with the songs as well.
If you look at where we were when we last recorded that session, and then where you are now, what you've fitted into that small period of time is incredible, mate. It's like you've not stopped. You've taken that Ange mantra.
Aye.
You've never stopped.
We never stop.
Absolutely. And you see that you playing at football stadiums, you turn on the radio, you hear you on Off the Ball and all this kind of stuff. You're just like, this is brilliant. It's tremendous. But what's next? What is next in the calendar for you?
So for this year, I've done a King Up. So far, I've always tried to do like a Western and East Coast headline. So I done King Tut's back in June time, and then I've got over in the East on the 28th of December. It's a show in PG Malloy's in Dunfermline, which is again quite a legendary grassroots venue. A lot of famous posters and that of who's played there. So that's where I'm playing there. And then for me, like going into next year and the year after, I literally just want to go and just take the music and go about Scotland. I'd love to go across to Ireland, keep going down south into into England, because that music is very relatable and talks to a big group of people. So for me, the next phase is just taking that music and taking it to the country.
What
and
about
growing it.
playing at Paradise? Or maybe even soundtracking the Christmas advert? What about that?
I'd love to do that. I'd love to do that. I'm always kind of open to any sort of DMs or that, or emails or WhatsApp messages. But no, I'd love to do it. Like, the thing with Celtic for me, it starts. So obviously there's a massive Italian side to me, and maybe Scottish Italian's quite sexy. But like my mum's side's actually they're all Irish. Like my gran was from the west. My granddad was from County Donegal. So all my cousins on that side, they're all massive like big Celtic fans. So yeah, like obviously like my gran and stuff like that. Like if for me to go and play, say on the pitch at Paradise, I know she's obviously passed away in that now, but that would mean quite a lot to that side of the family. So it's something that I would 100% do. And she's even got the brick outside Celtic Park, and I remember, like, you don't get more Celtic than this, but she actually died on Easter Sunday after a Celtic Rangers game, and it was we got beaten in the semi-final, and Greg Taylor scored the first goal, and I put a tenner on it. 60-61.
Oh, well, when we were at Hampden just recently to watch the semi-final, we were captured on camera, right? Did I share that?
Aye, the back of my
Right.
head when I was
The
just...
back of your head gone absolutely wild. It was just a sea of arms. Me, you, Phil, and a few of our pals were at the game. The guy who recorded that was down in London for the award ceremony. So a big shout out to Blair McNally. It was Blair McNally when we were doing it London. And I feel as though it is a very small award in comparison to yours, Tommy. But I wanted to give a big shout out to everybody who supports the channel, because the votes got us into the final. The votes of people who listen to Acsom got us into the final. And I think this show, Tommy, we're on a good run. I think we're on episode 27. This show's played a massive part in it. 27?
Oh,
I know.
do you know what, Paul John? The reason I'm giving a wow is that sounds a lot, but it's
that-
so natural.
Oh, I know.
I mean, what we've tried to do is create a forum where we have a chat, and hopefully people watching get that vibe. It's relaxed. It's not a formal Q&A type of thing. It's about everybody giving their opinions and giving a platform for some people. And I'm listening to you there, Phil. You're so balanced in what you're saying. I love your plan. You seem so determined, mate.
That's the Fife side coming
Is
in.
that right? Is that what
yeah.
it is? You mentioned collaboration, so does that mean that you're working now with others in terms of some of your songwriting and things? Is that what you're meaning? Because you're saying that there's a bit of teamwork going in now.
Yeah. So I tend to, when you make music, you've got a producer. Now, obviously, there's a music producer. They're the ones on the computers, and they make the beats and the ones that can make the sound and pull it all together. But you also get people out there that are songwriters as well. So I've not been somebody that's went around and just worked with 15 different million songwriters. I've had one in particular. He's a good friend of mine. That I've worked with him for a while, and we've built something there as a writer, producer, and an artist myself as well. So I've kind of stuck with that. Again, they're boys from Glasgow boys as well. So it's something that's very, very Scottish. But you kind of bounce. It's weird. It's just a sort of chemistry thing. I think sometimes having more people hands on and seeing ideas come together, it can sometimes take someone to the next level. It's I've seen it with, I'll come in with like a verse idea and somebody will have like a chorus idea, and then you're like, what key is it? All right, it's the same key, let's see if it goes together. And then the two melodies just slot together, and you're like, bro, hell, this is a tune, and it turns into something totally different. So no, like, I've always loved that sort of way of working, and I think now a lot of times when I was writing Bonnie Toon in the sesh, that to me I would have been like, right, that's a song. Like, I've wrote a full song. But now I'll probably only write a verse or a verse and a pre, and then I'll go and work with somebody and we'll make it a full song. And that's really...
I love this creative process.
I know.
Paul John, it's
intriguing, isn't it?
It's so admirable just how you bring something together, you
Yeah.
know, and I love I think your attitude there is brilliant, because there's no I in team. And what you're talking about there is now taking it to the next level and recognising, instead of just you, bringing other people's talents in as well.
Aye.
And I think, each of your input makes something bigger and probably better as well. So brilliant, Phil. I think your attitude's great, mate.
Collaboration's brilliant. I'm going to throw you under the bus a wee bit. I've never done this before. I'm going to ask a question at the end of every one of these episodes now, Tommy.
Right, okay.
Which Celtic fan would you like to see on the show? And it can be from music, film, it could be an ex-player, an ex-manager. Don't say Mo Johnston.
Joe Hart.
Joe Hart, all right. You've thrown the gauntlet
Love
down
that. Again, look, I love his personality and how he was with the club. I was a bit sad in terms of how it ended. I wanted him to stay, but a lot of people were kind of like, no, you need to, his time's up. But I think as a personality and probably his experience and what he shared with other players at the club and how he is with the club now, somebody that's played for Manchester City and other big clubs, but you can see there's still a big affection for Celtic Football Club. So I kind of love that, and obviously I watch a lot of the stuff he does on the TVs, the work at the Euros and the stuff. Is it Match of the Day? I think he's on as well now. So no, I'd love to see him on, and I'd love to see him at one of the events as well. I'd definitely come along to that one.
Definitely, we'll see what we can do, Tommy.
I think that's a good choice, Phil. I'd probably disagree with you about the timing, because I think he went out at the right time. When you're at the top,
It helps that Schmeichel's been so good as
well.
well.
This is what I was then going to say, because you think about it, Paul John, a lot of people are, for God's sake, we've went from, I think, what was Joe, 35 or 36, and Schmeichel's 36 or 37, so you get rid of an older keeper and bring in an even older one, but people have to remember, he may be an older keeper, but he's a Danish number one. He's played at the top level all his life. He's lived and breathed football as a kid with who his dad is. And I think he's been an absolutely key element in the success of this team. I think his performance against Atalanta was incredible. But I don't know if you guys would agree, apart from his saves are great. His distribution,
brilliant.
Phenomenal. For a goalkeeper. I mean, sometimes he pings them and it's right to the player. He doesn't go for the easy pass.
No. He's great, and it transitions so quickly from defence to attack. The big thing for me, leadership, and he's a winner, Tommy. You're bringing in a winner, and he knows what it takes. That's why on the 15th of December, I want us to win that League Cup. A lot of people decry it as an unimportant trophy. I think it's massive to galvanise a side, and it gets people like Trusty and Schmeichel into the way of winning things for Celtic as well, Phil.
I think for me, every year you want to win a treble, right? And it's easier said than done, so that trophy is important, especially when it's a derby match as well. But no, 100%, you've seen so many stories that have started with that League Cup win. Like Angie's team was the League Cup win, and we didn't know that season if we were going to go on and win the league, but that League Cup win kind of built a bit of a hunger to win more, and the confidence to go on and do that. And you've seen that with players, even like one of my favourite players now is Alistair Johnston. He's the same sort of mentality, proper. I think he's got a lot of an old-fashioned fullback, but on the flip side, he's got the modern-day fullback in him as well. He loves a 50-50, but he can bomb up the line and do all that side of the game. And you've seen like those sort of players winning their first trophy and the love for it and the fans and the affection and the importance of it. So I want us to win trebles every year.
You've got some amount of wisdom on your shoulders for a young guy, Phil. I mean, because those points you've just made are absolutely key. I mean, I think Alistair Johnston is exactly what you've just described there, because he reminds you of the Tommy Gemmell type of up and down, bombing up and down, but he also loves the physical battle. And the fact that they've signed him up on a longer contract,
he's combative. Yeah, he's got the leadership as well. He's got that as well. Phil, you'll need to come back after you've done a few wee bits in terms of your touring and songs, because we want to catch up with your story. You're on a journey.
Yeah.
Don't, ignore the DMs once you get to that point, mate. We want you back.
The general inbox.
Thanks for joining us, mate.
No worries. Thanks for having me. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again for joining us on A Celtic State of Mind. Join us next Friday at 6 o'clock for this is A Celtic State of Mind.